Hi, I'm back with more marks. By the way, I've recently just moved to London, so if anybody's in the area, let me know in the comments. Maybe we can meet up or something. Yes, alright, so if you've made it to this point, you're probably quite sick of seeing my face, so I'm just gonna minimize myself here. Chapter 19 is about the transformation of the value of labor power into wages. How does value that is created by labor turn into wages all of a sudden? In my opinion, this chapter serves well as a revision of the previous chapters, and the main point Marx is going to make here, shouldn't be new to anyone who's read the previous chapters. We can therefore take this opportunity to further think about his view on what constitutes wages. Now, how do we measure the value of labor? The wage of labor is obviously in some way connected to the market price of the goods and services produced with that labor. Classical economists would say the price is determined by the market, by supply and demand. However, Marx sort of goes the other way around about it. A worker sells labor power in exchange for a wage. This wage comes from the goods and services produced. Wouldn't it be reasonable to assume that the price of that commodity is the wage, since it represents the value of the labor power? Maybe. However, in capitalist society, we find two components in wage. And we've sort of gone over this in previous chapters. The first one being necessary labor. That's what is needed to keep the worker alive. Without it, the labor power couldn't even exist, so it's really non-negotiable. You might think of this as being connected to our modern notion of a minimum wage, although it's not technically the same thing, but minimum wage is usually close to necessary labor, in my opinion. This point is sort of debatable, I admit. Number two, surplus labor, the extra value produced by the laborer that eventually goes to the capitalist. The surplus labor is basically unpaid labor from the perspective of the worker. Marx makes a comparison to slave labor here, saying that slave labor is completely unpaid and also appears completely unpaid. Obviously, slaves aren't being paid. Wage labor, on the other hand, is partly unpaid, but appears on the outside as being fully paid. Somebody making £10 for a 10-hour working day thinks he's getting £1 an hour, with all their hours being paid. But let's assume a 50-50 split between necessary and surplus labor, which would come out to 5 hours of necessary and 5 hours of surplus labor. What they don't realize is that only the first 5 hours, in the example we just gave, are being paid at £2 an hour. The second half of their working day, they're working basically unpaid for the capitalist. So in that way, wage labor is more sneaky than slave labor, hiding the truth well and making the workers believe they're being fully paid for all the hours they're working, when really, they're not. Thanks to our Patreons Lucy Wood, Taylor Boudreau, and Anthony S. for making this channel possible.